Hi friends, I am just back from the garden. We got rain last night. Woohoo! Very exciting. We have been in a month-long drought here and we needed the rain we got overnight. So very excited about that. And because I'm excited about that, I picked some zucchini blossoms. I actually picked them last night at dusk before the rain actually came in. And these are your gorgeous zucchini blossoms, which most people probably, if you were growing zucchini, you probably are having to pick these almost every day if you're actually using them. And you can use them for all kinds of culinary purposes. Traditionally in Italy and in France, these are a nice little aperitivo or antipasti, just stuffed with a little ricotta, which is what we're going to do today. And then we're gonna go the next level and do a really light kind of tempura batter and fry these in some grapeseed oil. And they'll be crispy and delicate on the outside and oozing with cheese on the inside. Perfect with a really icy cold glass of Prosecco or rosé or a really good cold beer. Something I wanted to show you before we get into this quick little recipe is typically in the garden, during the sunshine hours of the day, these will be open in their full flower. And oftentimes in the evening, they'll close up for the night. And then certainly when you pluck them, they'll close up within a short period of time after being clipped from the plant. So what I like to do, because you can successfully pluck them and keep them in your fridge without much damage done to them for a couple of days. And what I like to do is when I harvest them is just at the container, I just gently place them into any kind of closed storage container in a single layer, preferably without them touching each other, and then just do some craft paper towel or basic kitchen towel in between each layer. And I just do 2, maybe 3 layers tops. I don't want a lot of weight on them. And then just put a final layer of paper towel on top, slap a lid on, keep it in your fridge, and you can make use of these for 3, maybe even 4 days before you might start to see a little bit of kind of slimy stuff start to get on them. And you can totally eat them raw. In fact, the first time I learned how to work with these was in Liguria, and we just filled them with ricotta and didn't fry them. Just seasoned them with some nice salt, and they were served raw with just fresh ricotta and some herbs on the inside, and they were really, really delicious. But like I said, we're gonna do the fried version for something a little extra special. So the zucchini blossoms, when they're in this form as opposed to being open, they are a little bit more tedious to work with because you do have to be slightly gentle in opening up the leaves, but you can do so with just a little bit of grace and just gently pull apart the 4 petals essentially that make up the zucchini blossom. And on the inside, I don't know if you can see there, probably not, but there is a little stamen on the inside. And if you just gently go in with your thumb and index finger, you can just pluck the stamen out and just toss that aside. And then you've got a full little cavity in the center. So I tend to prep these a few minutes ahead of time and then get on with making my tempura batter as well as my ricotta mixture. And that's what we're gonna do next. And before I get on to the rest of the ingredients, I had a message asking about my planter pots in the last video. Actually, I had a couple questions, one being what is in them. I think this one was in the last video. This I have 2 different types of mint in here, and then I just have some ivy in here just as a planting companion. And then in this guy, I've got some thyme, I've got tarragon, of course, one of my absolute favorites, and then I've got some rosemary in here as well. And then I have another longer old Dutch style bread bowl on my main table in the barn, and it also has more tarragon, rosemary, lots of basil in there as well. So I like to have some herbs inside the barn. I've got some in the greenhouse. I've got some in the next door in the backyard in my raised beds. I just like to have lots of herbs at hand throughout the entire year if possible, but particularly in the summertime. But I try to keep these even through the fall and winter so that I have access to fresh herbs all the time. And as for where I got them, This is an antique piece. I don't really know that it's antique so much as it's vintage, but I got this many moons ago. This, however, I got at CB2, maybe like 4 years ago. It's actually a champagne, like an ice bucket for champagne, but I don't use it for that because I'm not that fancy. So I turned it into an herb pot. And this is my old Dutch bread bowl that I also turned in just to an indoor planter with basil and a few other assorted herbs. There's more thyme there, and of course more rosemary and tarragon. All right, so on with the actual recipe for this, which of course I will post on the website at enidgrace.com, and I will also put it in this week's newsletter, which also has a few other nice summertime recipes in it. So all you need for this recipe, you need some good quality ricotta, and by good quality ricotta, I mean it has to be a drier ricotta. Some ricottas that you buy in the shop, they can actually be a little bit too liquidy, and if you try and make a lot of things with wet ricotta, whether that be a cake or stuffing for ravioli or making your own cannoli, if the ricotta is overly wet, that water is gonna leach out and then you're gonna end up with something not so nice. So if you don't wanna make your own ricotta, or if you don't have access to some good high quality imported Italian ricotta, whatever ricotta you buy in the store, just take even an hour, but ideally overnight. Put your ricotta either in a fine mesh sieve or squeeze it in a piece of cheesecloth or a clean kitchen towel, and just get out as much of that excess whey as you can. It'll make your life a lot easier when making recipes with ricotta. So to our ricotta, I'm gonna do the zest of 1 whole lemon. And my actual personal favorite for this dish, although you could use any herb that you like, is dill. So I grabbed a big old handful. Oh, I just love it. Sorry, in all these videos, you're gonna catch me just headily sniffing all the herbs, but I love dill and I really like dill with the fried zucchini. But again, you can use any herb that you like. Seasoning, salt and pepper, of course, and then some fresh mozzarella that I'm just gonna chop up into little pieces, and that'll get mixed in the ricotta. And all of that is what will get stuffed in to our little blossoms. The other part of the recipe is the light tempura batter, which could not be simpler. I've just got all-purpose flour, a little bit of salt for seasoning, and then just some sparkling water, San Pellegrino, club soda, whatever you want to use, or you could use a light beer as well, just something with some frizzante, some effervescence to it. And ideally, if you can make this a day in advance as well, much like the clafouti batter, it makes it a little bit lighter and crispier if it has time to sit in the fridge. But if you don't have that time, don't stress, you can make it within 20 minutes. And then our other ingredient is I'm going to use grapeseed oil. It's my favorite oil to either shallow fry or deep fry in. It has a very neutral taste, a really high smoke point, and for me, it's just the best oil to fry in. And you just want the actual zest. You want to stop before you take too much of the white pith. You want all of that super fragrant, sour, although somewhat slightly sweet oil from the skin of the lemon. Look at that. Gorgeous lemon zest right into the bowl with our ricotta. And then for our dill, this is a bit too much, obviously. So I'm just going to take a little bit of the dill and just do a nice fine mince on this so we can extract as much flavor as possible. And into the bowl with the ricotta. And last thing is a fresh ball of mozzarella. And this is super fresh. I don't know if you can see those drips falling, but delicious fresh mozzarella or fiore di latte, whatever you can get your hands on. And I'm just going to chop this up into small pieces, and that'll get mixed in with the ricotta. And then the ricotta, once fried, will be kind of creamy and oozy. And I'm just going to take a little spoon and mix this all together. For the tempura batter, I just have some all-purpose flour in here. I'm going to go in with some salt to season. You can do pepper as well if you want, but I'm just going to go with salt. And then I've just got some sparkling water, and I like to make a very thin tempura batter. I don't want a ton of batter on the outside of this. I want this to be elegant and lightly crispy, not like sodden in a really like thick crust of crispy batter, although that's lovely on a lot of things. In the case of the blossom, I think it should be just delicately fried with just a little bit of crispiness. All right, so that's a nice thin batter, no lumps. And for your zucchini blossoms, just delicately pull back the 4 or 5 or maybe sometimes even 6 little blossoms so it's open like so, and inside there'll be the little stamen. Just pluck that out. And then to fill it, you can certainly do it by hand. Just mold a little couple teaspoons of the ricotta filling in your hand and just plonk it down in the center. But if you want it to be slightly less messy, just put your filling into a piping bag and then just stick the tip right into where the stamen was. And again, just like 2 kind of generous teaspoons, depending on how big. And you can see you've got your filling in there. And then just wrap the petals of the zucchini flower back up around. I like to just give it a little twist and then just put these to the side until you're ready to dip them in the batter and then into the hot oil. So I'm just going to carry on and make a few more of these, and then we're going to dip them in the batter. All right, our oil is ready for frying. You can test it by just dropping gently a little piece of the tempura batter in, and if it fizzles up quickly, you're good to go. You can also take the bottom of a wooden spoon and just stick it in the oil, and if little bubbles gently fizzle up around the bottom, that's also a pretty good indication that you're ready to go. You definitely don't want the oil to be smoking, so that's why I recommend just putting it on medium heat to start. Don't turn the gas on full bore. And if you start to see tufts of smoke, it's too hot and you definitely don't want to fry into it. So we've got our beautiful stuffed zucchini blossoms here and our bowl of thin tempura batter. So I also like to keep the little stems on the zucchini blossoms. I just think it looks prettier, but also it's very easy to then dip into the tempura batter. And I'm just going to let most of that excess drip off and then gently into the oil. Make sure you let the flour fall away from you so that you don't splash on yourself. So I've already turned these once. You can see nice and golden brown. They only take about 1.5 to 2 minutes. You never want to overcrowd your pan. If you put too many in the pan at once, it's going to drop the temperature of your oil and it's going to cause things to kind of sweat more than actually fry. So work in batches, making sure that the temperature of your the temperature of your oil never gets too low. And then have a tray with some kitchen towel nearby so that you can remove these from the oil, put them on a tray, season them with a little bit of salt and maybe a little splash of lemon juice, and then they're going to be ready to go. And here are our crispy little babies. Crispy, crispy, crispy. And just a couple of these, like I said, for a little antipasti or aperitivo, something ice cold to drink, a little bit of finishing salt, or you could put some Parmigiano cheese on top. And then my favorite addition, just a couple drops of fresh lemon. And now the best part, diving in. So crispy. I haven't even gotten to the cheese yet, but I just love the little initial crispiness with that little touch of lemon. And oozy, look at that, oozy center. It's delicately flavored, The dill's a real knockout in here, and the seasoning and the gooey mozzarella. You're gonna love these. They seem a little finicky, but I promise you, they're totally worth it.